Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever in the world you are consuming this, and welcome to another fantastically loaded episode of the Grumpy Gits Show. I, as always, am your marvellous host, Adam Pearson, leading you by the hand through this cavalcade of carnage, chaos, and camaraderie. But I am not alone. Oh, no. I am joined by my two regular co-hosts here to help me to help you. Because when you give a little, you get a little. Isn't that right? You're goddamn right. First and foremost, he is a man they call the Saucy Aussie. He once described homelessness as a lifestyle choice. I'm joking. That was Suella Braverman, and she's awful. Duncan Casburn, how are you, good sir?
I'm well. I don't ever want to be compared to Suella Braverman ever again. If you do that again, I'm sending out hitmen, and they're coming for you. Dark web, I'm on it, all over it, mate.
And I look forward to that challenge, good sir. I played those games on the PlayStation. I know how to duck and roll and avoid it. I'll just spend the rest of my life in a giant Elmo costume, but then I am dressed like Elmo for the rest of my life. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But you know what? I've made a plan, sticking to it. And also on the call, he is the legend from Manchester, and even further north than that, my friend and your friend, Martin Dugan. How are you, my man?
Good, thank you, Adam. It's nice to be back with you. It's been a while. Any of the fans would be sitting here thinking, where have those boys been? Where have they been? But I'm actually really good. Busy with work. I've been up in Scotland quite a lot. I've been in London a little bit, doing a lot of sports, TV and radio stuff. So this is the time of year, as maybe you'll know yourself, Adam, as well. Freelance world ramps up at this time of year when you work in Teleland or Radioland. Like, it goes really busy between October and December, and then it goes barren after Christmas.
Yeah, rub it in, right? Yeah, you two are TV stars. I get it.
Yeah.
Who recognised me at the Test Sen show? Hey?
Discounting Duncan in this whole conversation because he's like Suella Braverman. That's why, like, I'm actually just ignoring him now.
It's good to have you both back. Now, the more eagle-eyed viewers will be thinking, isn't there another guy like Christoph, like something beginning with C? Nope. Never was a fourth guy.
Something last name, and I can't think why.
Do you know what, though, as well? I always remember I used to think to myself when we used to record that there used to be this noise that used to come up everywhere. It was like, ee! Yeah, it was like really angry noise.
Yeah,
like the sound of mice dying.
Yes.
Whoever Chris Lee Smith is, I hope he's all right.
We all hope he's all right, whoever he is, wherever he is, if he even exists. So, earlier, gentlemen, see you next Tuesday, I put out the call to our fan base. I thought, let's let the audience have some fun. Maybe that Chris Lee Smith made up guy all right in. He didn't, but we did get someone respond.
We had a question from Rebecca Clapcott. You remember Rebecca? She recognised me at the Test Sen show. Which species would be the rudest of all animals if it could talk?
I like this question because I don't want to go with the low-hanging fruit.
You don't need to go like domestic. I think we should go a wee bit more tropical with our thoughts here. I mean, let's be honest, because dolphins are quite rude.
They're the most conceited animal on earth.
Yeah, they're pretty naughty, but I don't think they're my choice. But I just wanted to throw it out there that dolphins have got a little bit of a...
Oh, look at us, we're making wishes come true. Oh, we clever. Oh. then why do you get caught in nets, bro? The behind-the-scenes stuff on Flipper 2, on that DVD, it's just Flipper kicking off. Just all like cocaine, like hackers,
like snorting and then blowing it out the. If cats were human, they'd be those arrogant smokers that would just be like, you know.
Yeah.
I reckon the angriest animal on earth would be the funnel web spider. I say this from experience. They are vicious. I reckon funnel web should translate simply to "fuck you" because that's all they say. There's a spider. Fuck you, and they sit there.
Still get the impression that in the animal kingdom, zebras are just like really rude. Zebras they're a little bit smug. They float around the plains of Africa, right? And then they're black and white. Like nothing else in the African plains is like, you know, white like that.
I've survived all this shit in spite of my lack of camouflage.
They're just a bit smug.
Right.
So
walking around the Serengeti like it's an episode of RuPaul's fucking Drag Race. Look at me.
Exactly.
Look what I'm wearing. Yeah.
And then before you know it, you've got a fucking lion hanging onto your arm. That's just pure rudeness, and it's self-indulgent. I feel the same about polar bears. Like, polar bears are a little bit rude. They look cute. They're fluffy. You'd want one as a teddy, but they would literally tear your face off.
Going on the black and white thing, panda bears are the same.
Yeah,
this was my answer. Panda bears are arrogant to the point where they're blind to their own self-interest.
Yes, exactly
You're going extinct. There's another panda. Go stop the panda. No, I don't like her. Like, that's not the point. You're being like really, really picky. And also, it's been 2 years. Like, how is this not just organic? How is boredom alone not forced you to do it? Like, if you could put me in a cage with anything, and after a week, I'd have at least tried to suck it.
Yes, but the difference is you don't have well, maybe you do. An inverted penis, because they have an inverted penis, the male pandas. If there is an anti-evolutionary creature on this earth, it's the fucking panda.
Yeah. And do you know what the thing is as well? Do you know what used to really annoy me working on Newsround? Because every single year there would be like a panda alert story every year when I worked at Newsround, right? And every year they'd be like, "We think the panda's pregnant at Edinburgh Zoo." Right? So then, who was fucking muggins here that got sent to cover the fucking fake panda news story, right?
Send the disabled guy.
Send the guy from Scotland, right? Like, send our panda correspondent, Martin, right? I would go to Edinburgh Zoo, and I'm absolutely convinced, in the third year I started to suspect that the pandas at Edinburgh Zoo were just grown men in suits.
That's the Kit Kat ad. The Kit Kat, remember that?
Yeah, absolutely convinced. Maybe you've got a point there, actually. Maybe the panda's right up there. It's got to be, again, black and white animal.
It seems to be a theme, doesn't it?
If you strut around with a monochrome...
Badgers. I'm going to look cute. I'm going to look adorable. I'm going to make everyone sympathise with me. If you come close to me, I'm going to rip your fucking throat out.
They are quite spot on. I don't think they'd be deliberately rude, but I just think they get overly excited and sort of like ruin your life a little bit if they're around you the whole time. Like penguins. I reckon penguins would just run around going, "Ah!"
It comes back to the polar bear, doesn't it? Polar bear's coming. I could fly away, but I'm not going to.
Dalmatians.
I've got wings.
Dalmatians, dickheads. Dalmatians are dickheads.
They're really snappy, aren't they? I agree. Cronenville had the right idea. I wish it was 1,000,001 Dalmatians that she tried to skin with that coat.
Yeah. Yes.
Can I work with our sponsors for this episode? Peter.
Here's another one. Skunk.
Oh, man. Skunks would be... Pepe Le Pew.
Yeah.
Hello, Me Too movement. Like, really?
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you're too young to remember this, Martin. Pepe Le Pew was a Looney Tunes character, and it was a French rapey skunk who was constantly chasing this other animal that he thought was a skunk, but no, it was just a very stupid cat that got white paint on his back. Hello, mon chéri, how are you? I like you.
The word consent. The word consent never came into Pepe Le Pew's language, did it?
I
like
you as a friend. Yeah.
Here's another one. Here, listen. There's one that I'll just end this. Magpies. Dickheads.
Fucking Australian magpies.
Dickheads.
Have you experienced the Australian magpie? They
dive bomb you.
They dive bomb you. They're not like the English ones. They're bigger. They've got bigger beaks. And I genuinely say this. They're not just annoying and pecking away at carcasses on the road. They will attack you. They will swoop down. People wear hats with eyes on the top of the hats in Australia, painted on, so that fucking magpies won't swoop them and attack them. They are vicious, vicious bastards.
Yeah, but can I just say as well, like, the worst bird that I ever found in Australia was a bin chicken. a bin chicken, they called it when I was in Australia. It's an ibis.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right. In the edit, have a look at an ibis, by the way, it's terrifying. But before we move on for this, we agreed that black and white animals, no matter what part of the animal family or mammals that you're from, you're just a little bit of a deviant. Is that what we've come up with? And what word do you want to be added to the dictionary, and what would its definition be?
Oh, wow. Okay. I don't use slang that much. I use like proper words and stuff. Well, slang and street talk annoys me. Not because I think it's inherently bad or I'm a snob. I just don't understand it and can't keep up with it.
Yeah.
Like back in the day, if you were going to the gym, you'd be like, "Oh, I'm going to the gym." Not what the kids say now. They say, "Gonna go bang gym," and I'm like, "Who's Jim? Gonna go bang Jim?"
That's Jim.
You know, that's
Is she? I'll go first, and I'll give you that. Might inspire you it. But being a Glaswegian, proud Glaswegian man, we use slang all the time. Sometimes as terms of endearment, sometimes it isn't. You would know the difference. Ball bag. So BAWBAG, ball bag, and it basically means ball bag, right? You got to shut up, your ball bag, right? And basically, you're just calling somebody a scrotum. Basically, that's the way it is. But then you go, "Oh, this is my mate. This is my mate, Adam. He's a ball bag." So you'd use it. And I think my definition is, what I would say is anything that looks like, sounds like, resembles anything like a man's genitalia, for both terms of endearment and bringing someone down.
the one I'd love to introduce in is lunter. Well, there's two. Lunter, which is a word my daughter invented so we all know my daughter's autistic PDA profile. When she was having a proper kickoff, she was screaming at me from the stairs and called me a lunter. And I didn't know whether to be insulted by the language or proud of the fact that she was able to rhyme that effectively at the age of 3.
Oh, see, what she's done there with Zonta is combine the word loser and that other word that we're not allowed to say on YouTube.
That's the
And
one.
made it an insult.
And use it effectively so that everybody understood what she was saying without really saying it.
Well, I shared this with my Facebook group, and lunter for a while became a term of, what a lunter. It was just effective. So I'd like to see lunter. And the other one, we were doing this thing of contracting words. It was my mate Alan in Australia who came up with, it happens to men and women when the chest area gets a bit saggy with age, maybe a bit wrinkly in the sun, especially in Australia. They get a bit scabby. So he came up with scooters.
Listen, it took me a little while. But when it landed well. Like, that is good. That is really good. Scooters. No, scooters. I don't think that is a classic. I think that should definitely be used.
Yeah, right.
Definitely, that is class.
I would use my one word in a dictionary just to make a Simpsons reference and make all my friends very proud of me. So I would add the word Chuzwazzers to the dictionary from the episode where the Simpsons go to Australia and Bart sneaks a bullfrog over the border and it ruins the Australian ecosystem. And the guy's like, "Oh, what are these animals called?" And Marge's like, "Oh yeah, we had them in America. They're called bullfrogs." "Ah, bullfrogs? That's a weird name. I'd have called them Chuzwazzers." So yeah, I'm gonna put Chuzwazzers.
I'd like to know what the worst piece of advice you've ever been given is, and what did it apply to?
Well, at the time, it seemed like really good advice because I was young and rambunctious and didn't know any better. I used to go to this like after school place on like Mondays and Fridays when both my parents were at work, and then during the summer. And one of the kids that I just didn't get on with, he was like really, really mean to me. He bullied me. I didn't like it. And we had like a load of like young guys working there, like, back in the day, like mid-90s, young people looking after kids for £3.50 an hour seemed like a great idea for the summer. And there was a guy there called John, and I really liked John. I got on with him a lot. And one time I was just like, "Oh man, this kid keeps making fun of me and I don't know what to do." And I don't know what was going through John's mind that day, but John was just like, "Oh yeah, just kick him in the dick and call him a lunter," or words to that effect. And 9-year-old me went, gonna do that. Did it? Oh, on the naughty chair for several hours, thinking about what I did. Even though I thought about it while I was doing it, because I'm shady.
Oh man, I remember one of the worst pieces of advice that I got given is when I used to work in a factory in Glasgow somewhere. I won't say too much about the details of where it was because I can incriminate myself. Do you guys remember MCAP when it came out? So it was just like this drug that came out, and it came out in a sort of crystallised powder form or whatever. Anyway, I was working in this place at this point in time, and we used to finish early. And like one of my mates said, "Oh, you should try like a little bit of this because we're all going to the pub after it." It's like, yeah, okay. But then he just gave me this bag, and then I just like took most of it, and like I still had an hour of work to go. So he advised to take like, so that I took more of it than what I should have, and I was like absolutely bouncing, man. I was like, you should sort of. He advised me.
Friend advised you to overdose, basically.
Yeah. So I was sat. So then what used to happen was like the ice cream
Is he actually a friend?
No, he's not now. But so basically, my pupils like really dilated and became really big, like a cartoon characters, and I was like, shit. And then because I was like working with heavy machinery at the time, like I couldn't do anything, so I was just like shit. And because I was freaking out, it was making it worse. So then I was acting weird, and then we were on the bus. We were on the bus home, and like I had to get like myself home in that. So I had to get on this, and I couldn't get myself home for ages because I just couldn't establish many things. And my mate had to like, he basically had to watch me for the next like 3 hours.
Who's your friend? Courtney Love? Like, Jesus.
It was just like one of these weird things. Like my mate's like, "Oh, take a wee bit of this, you'll feel good." And I was like, "All right." So the worst piece of advice that I've ever taken is that somebody towards the tail end of my shift on a Friday, and when I worked at a certain job, advised me that I should take some of this MCAT. I took it.
Line of our news round viewers.
Oh, mate. Honestly.
Anyway, Duncan, follow that. What's your worst piece of advice?
It was from my dad, to be honest. It was just, I used to get bullied a lot and at school, and there's a couple of pieces of advice he gave me, but the one that really sticks out was, I don't know if I've told this story on here before, but I'd basically been given permission by my father to swear. So I used to get on the bus on the way back home, and it used to be kicking off every time. I used to cop it. And I'd spoken to my dad about it, and he said, just get off the bus, turn around very calmly, look at them all, and just tell them to fuck off. And I was like, oh, that sort of feeling as a genuinely an 11-year-old kid, like I've been given permission to use the F word by my dad, And sure enough, that afternoon, I was going home on the bus, and it was all, and I got off and I turned around and I yelled it out, fuck off. There was parents picking up their kids and stuff. Everyone was like, it was this stunned silence. And I was like, yes. I turned around and walked straight into a tree and destroyed every bit of credibility.
You loser.
Even you had more like 2 seconds of absolute glory there.
It was the ultimate, like, if you had to define pride comes before a fall, that was the moment. It should be in the dictionary, quite frankly.
You might as well have called your teacher mum. So we've established at the start of this podcast that Chris Lee Smith, not a real person. But if he was a real person, what do you think he'd be like? I reckon he'd have like short guy energy.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
He'd be a tall man with small man syndrome.
Yeah.
That would yeah. And
then we a constant surprised, suspicious look on his face.
Like almost tattooed on his face.
Yeah, like he's surprised that you're not being suspicious yet.
I get this like the image of a foot hitting the ground and mice fleeing.
Yeah.
I get the feeling he's somebody who could identify your weak spot within seconds and will somehow find a way to manipulate it for his own benefit.
Yeah, I reckon he'd read the room well.
Yes.
He also seems like the kind of guy that might buy a dog just on a whim. Just be like, Hey, Hey kids, look what I brought home. Us miserable in 10 years.
And then he also strikes me as the type of guy that just decides in the morning that he's going to do some gardening or build a fucking bench or start a company. Like, that's the type of guy that we're dealing with, the unpredictable nature.
Sure, I bet he's great to drink with.
I bet he's the type of guy that would do something that no one else would, like Southern Comfort and orange juice or something.
That sounds revolting.
Make you drink something like that. And then try and sell it to you like it's a pitch, like he works for them.
Like a really shit Dragon's Den. You know what's a good idea? Southern Comfort and lemonade.
What he'll do is, as he's drinking the Southern Comfort and lemonade, he'll build a bench, start a company, all at the same time.
He actually sounds like a pretty good bloke when you say
Then kill it, and then kill him out. then kill everyone suspecting.
I like this guy. All he's really got to do is accidentally knock his kid out in a tickle fight. And he's my guy.
But do you know what? This is actually making me feel quite sad because we're never ever going to meet somebody like this. There's no one in this planet. Like, there's no one in this planet that behaves like that, and there's no one in this planet that behaves like that. It's called Chris. So we better get ourselves. Listen, boys, we just need to get used to the fact that it's never going to happen.
If he's out there, he's probably drinking his brother's piss as we speak.
No man can behave like that and just survive. Just evolution would have just taken care of it.
I mean, let's be honest. If you drank your brother's piss, you'd be pretty stressed for the rest of your life.
I'd be traumatized.
Sounds like the kind of thing that get diagnosed as ADHD later on in life.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, 100%. 100%. I actually think that he'd be joining a Pilates class.
or angry watching YouTube. Just watching YouTube, getting angrier and angrier the longer the video goes on.
like angry Pilates.
Start that angry Pilates.
They would start a Pilates class.
That's another one for the dictionary. But yoga, angry yoga.
angry Pilates. I am not bending my body that way.
Coming to District Expo next year. Angry Pilates with the Grumpy Gits. And that is the end of See You Next Tuesday.
I wanted to talk to you about something that I saw at London Film Festival. And it was this thing called Dragon Slayers, right? And I actually thought that it was pretty shit. Apparently somebody called Adam Pearson.
I hate that guy.
He's fucking annoying.
Apparently, he's in this really ableist movie with Sebastian. Like, everything he does is massively ableist.
I've heard the same thing.
But in all seriousness, Duncan, you and I have watched this Dragon Slayers short film.
We saw it, didn't we? I got it. Dragon Slayers United, and I will say, and I would suck up the whole. Every part of me wants to sledge Adam to pieces right now, but I just can't because it was really, really good.
And do you know what? I'm just going to say off the bat as well. Like, I hate what you call it, like worthy disability things, where it's like, oh, this has got like, you know, these when you hear creatives talking like, let's talk about disability, but not talk about disability. Let's, you know, we don't have to make it the big thing, but it'll thread through it nicely like that. And I hate that kind of thing. But then, actually, there was so much about this one that I liked. I'll tell you what I really liked about it. The acting wasn't shit for a start. Thank God for that. But it was just really good use of animation into real reality kind of.
Yeah, I like that transition from real world to this kind of.
Yeah, same. And I thought it was used really cleverly. I thought it was really good. But then it had a real kind of 80s vibe to it.
It had that Spielbergish kind of Goonies.
Yes, it did.
It had that kind of feel to it, didn't it? With that kind of coming of age drama almost, but with a bit of comedy in there and some humour that cemented it. I know what you mean.
I suppose what we're trying to say here, Adam Pearson, is congratulations on another massive achievement for you at the film festival with Dragon Slayers United. You've absolutely smashed this one out of the park. I know that you tell us the story about how it came about and what it is about, and because I think you've told me and Duncan you've told Duncan and I the story of Dragon Slayers United and how you came up with the concept. But tell our viewers, please.
So it was a funding application we put in, the NFTS. the National Film and Television School and Disney were looking for writers from underrepresented groups to submit short film ideas. And so my friend Tom gave me a call and said, should we work on this? And I worked with Tom on like a few of my documentaries. I had like this pilot I did to a talk show set in my house with my mum that the BBC didn't take the series because they're wrong. And he'd also just done the Rosie Jones documentary that we've spoken about on this podcast before. And we found out about it, I think, the day of the deadline. So he dashed out an edit and we went and had like a lads pub lunch and just thought about what this could be, what should it be about, what do we want to avoid. Like you spoke earlier, Martin, about that kind of, let's make it a thing, but not the thing. And let's talk about disability, but never use the word disability, because that's like really, really wrong now in like 2023. Said no one ever. And so he came up with this idea about a group of disabled D&D players who have a new player who's just acquired a disability. So he's still trying to figure the world out. Sort of like join, but joined by accident. She thinks that Dragon Slayers is like a sort of allegory to facing society. And then she gets there, and nope, actual real dragons and D&D, but in a way that's really kind of communal, and also how every different disabled person talks about disability differently. Like you got Shani Dhanda's character, who's like really full on, kind of older and more closer dogs and disabled people. And you've got Rosie Jones' character, who's like really all about the community. And you've got like Dan's character, who's sort of very kind of protective when it comes down to it. And you've got my character who just doesn't care, who's just in life to the lols.
I loved Dan Edge's character. I don't know why, but there was something about him.
Great name. Great name.
I thought all the characters were really good. I really liked when Rosie Jones's character and the girl that had acquired her disability were in the cubicle kind of thing, because I felt like I've had so many conversations like that around disability in my life. Maybe not exactly like the conversation that those two had, but it was kind of like it was a turning point in that girl's life, that conversation. It was like the epiphany moment, whatever you want to call it, the bit that turns the tides a little bit. But do you know what I think it opens up to as well? It's like that. It's the show that the BBC does called The Detectorists. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
So what it does, what the premise of it is this is what Dragon Slayers United really sort of hit home with me as well, is that it was part of a club, and the club was very niche, and it was quite like this club is all about Dragon Slayers, this board game, but apparently it's a lot more than a board game. It's a way of life, and it's, you become someone else. I think you've really tapped into something there. I think the reason why these shows like Detectorists and these shows like the Dragon Slayers idea, I just think it's such a really clever way of getting a good story across, because you're teaching somebody about something. Or actually, what I felt like was I wanted to become part of that club, really wanted to be in it. And Detectorists had done that for me. The BBC done that with Detectorists, because I've never picked up a metal detector in my life. But because of the way it was done, it sort of showed you these characters in the way that you'd never think, or the way that you know what I mean?
I think what I really loved was it took that, it didn't necessarily need to be about disability in a sense.
Anything,
it transcended that. What I really appreciated was that really what it was about was that sort of element of bullying. And this world is a world that's so focused on, you punch down all the time. It brought that into it, but I actually really liked his, and I mean, it was Adam, writing this with his mate, and it was going to come in, but there was a real humor to it as well.
Yeah, there always is, yeah.
It felt like that sort of, how Ricky Gervais does that kind of thing. It's kind of
light and shade.
Afterlife, where it was just, like heart-wrenching 1 second, and the next minute you're laughing your ass off.
Yeah, you're right, mate. You're absolutely right.
It had that feel to it.
So, Adam, when and how and why would people want to see this?
So, I won't show the timeline, but it will eventually find its way onto Disney+. We've just submitted it to Tribeca Film Festival in New York. And I believe we qualified for the BAFTA nomination pool. Mate, so it's going to be doing the festival round, so we shall see. But it's all been really exciting. I've learned a lot, and I've got to work with some really good people because I think you're only as good as the people you work with.
Yeah.
And so for me to pretend this was like a one-man show is far from the truth. Tom's a really great co-writer and a super talented director. We had a really good
Can I
cast.
say, I want to add to that on the direction. That was one of the things I was really drawn to. I really like good visuals in anything I watched. And when you've got something that's directed poorly and you don't get the sort of sense of what's going on, one of the things I really was drawn to with it was the mood, as you know, it's just sort of into the bar and stuff. The light, the feel of it, it had that really high polished feel to it.
We spent a good day in that location, like before shooting, just picking shots and working out how we were going to light it, what we are going to bring in, what could we use that was already there. That shot in the toilet with Phil and Rosie.
Yeah, in the
we only looked in the girls' toilet on a whim and saw this massively long, like cubic-esque corridor. And the red light was like a last minute thing we decided on because it was sort of like a hazy blue light originally.
Yeah.
That was sort of like the natural lighting. So we put in like this red light and we're like, yeah, that is sick.
Yeah.
It looked really good. It had a real, I hate to say it, and I mean this in a really positive way, had a Michael Bay-ish feel to the things of what was going. I hate Michael Bay for everything he does, but I do appreciate his eye for cinematography. That feels in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, you did well, pal. You should be proud of yourself. You think it's great.
No, thank you. I'm glad you guys could come and enjoy it, and we'll see where it goes and what happens next. But yeah, I like my disability representation in the media, and it just shows that when you disabled people get to tell their own stories, it ends up a lot better than when non-disabled people do it. I could have put like singing, dancing, and Maddie Ziza in it, but I thought, no, that's what Australian pop stars do, and I'm not an Australian pop star.
Congratulations, man! And I just, if when it comes out, we will let you guys know. We'll put it on. We'll talk about it on this, but it is well worth checking out. And I will say, as I say, I think it transcended the whole thing of disability. I think it went out to anybody who feels like they're in a minority or feels pressured or put down in this world. I think that's where it resonated for me as a person who's not disabled myself. I could watch it and I could certainly feel that sense of I've been in that position for whatever reason in my life, like my story from earlier with the See You Next Tuesday question. You know, that stuff really hurts, and seeing it transcends disability. And I think that was one of the key things I got out of it was so much more.
Well, no, thank you, gentlemen. And again, thanks for coming to support me and see it. It meant a lot. So we all went to the TES show a few weeks ago as well. Duncan, you got me and Martin involved. You've done this before. You're really good friends with everyone that runs it. So the uninitiated amongst our audience, what is the TES show?
What I loved about TES show was that it's originated 31 years ago by a group of educators who were fed up with the fact that SEND wasn't represented in education nearly enough. And rather than just sit back and moan about the fact that there wasn't enough, information, they went out, sought some, people who could give them some talks and give them some education on it, got together and did this. And it's basically grown from that into this, it's a big show. It was at the Business Design Centre in London. Amazing people talking there. There's a leadership summit that I got involved with. We had the Parent Carer Teacher Forum, which was just great because what I loved about that was that, obviously we were really involved with that, the three of us. But it is where everyone's on a level playing field. Parent, carer, teacher, everyone was there to kind of get the idea of it. But Martin and I spoke to Beverly, who is one of the organisers of the TES show, and we talked about the fact that they had this poetry competition. And she shared with us just how important it was for her because it was giving a chance for kids themselves, whether they were SEND or not, to share their thoughts on it in poetry. And it's become a real feature of the show. And what they've actually done is in the past they've had a lot of different authors and people who've come to sort of judge and present the awards. And for the last couple of years, they've had Michael Rosen. If you don't know who Michael Rosen is, he's incredible. A load of children's books. He's got he was the children's laureate for a group.
Yeah, but he wrote like we're going on a bear hunt and stuff. Like he's like basically if you think about Julia Donaldson, the things that Julia Donaldson's written, Michael Rosen, like all these brilliant child authors that have done things. He's right up there with the very best. Michael
Yeah,
Rosen.
there's a real Roald Dahl feel to his stuff, isn't there?
Yeah,
I get that
definitely.
vibe.
He's definitely up there with one of the best children's authors.
He's like David Walliams if he wasn't insulting other contestants.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, even bigger, to be fair.
Part of him doing that was Adam got to sit down with Michael and interview. And I've got to say, watch this one and watch it through. You'll get to see Michael Rosen rapping, and that is worth the price of entry for any human being alive.
I'm stunned he went with it. So yeah, here is me sitting down with Michael Rosen at TESN 2023. Take it away, Adam Pearson in the past. What is going on, Internet? Adam Pearson here at the TES Exhibition 2023, and I am fortunate to be joined by prolific children's author. You may know him from such books as We're Going on a Bear Hunt, Chocolate Cakes, and Goldilocks and the Three Crocodiles. Michael Rosen, absolute pleasure.
Lovely to meet you.
The theme of this year's expo is Inspiring Minds, the Difference You Make to Me. What inspires you, Michael Rosen?
Oh, I think what inspires me most is digging into my mind and thinking about things that happen to me. So I sometimes think that my job, quite a lot of the time, is like archaeology. So I got my brain there and there's all my life experiences, and so I like digging around and finding things. It's not the only thing I do. I like playing with words. That inspires me, just finding funny things with words and playing with them, with the sound of them. And then also, I guess I'm quite interested in a kind of poetry that is based on mostly just seeing things. I don't know why, but it comes from an ancient Chinese tradition that when you see things, like say a leaf falling from a tree, it's just a leaf falling from a tree, but then if you look at it and the way the leaf has gone away and been blown away, you can suddenly connect it with other things. So there we are, there's three things that inspire me, if you don't.
You know, I grew up with things like Dr. Seuss. So I'm a big fan of like wordplay and, as you say, allegory and sort of like the potential meaning behind things, like worlds within worlds.
Yeah.
When did you decide you wanted to become an author, or did you decide you wanted to become an author, or is it something that just sort of organically happened to you?
Yes, I think it's the last bit. I mean, I got interested in the very idea of writing when I was about 15. So, you know, you're going along, you're doing the things people are asking you to do in school and in lessons, and some of those were great. I loved them. You know, we had a teacher who asked us to write dramatic monologues in the style of Robert Browning or even Shakespeare, and I thought that was wonderful, but that was in school. But when I really got the bug, I was reading a book, it's a kind of autobiography by James Joyce called Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, and I got very excited by the idea that you could write about what it was like being a child, sort of in the voice of a child. It isn't really in the voice of a child, but it's a sort of little bit like that. And I got quite excited by that. So I was about 15, 16. So I can more or less say, at that moment, I thought, oh, I'd like to do that. Then I read some poems by D.H. Lawrence. People know quite a few of those. Snake and Elephant and Man and Bat and that little group of poems. And I thought, oh, I like those. So I got the bug around about then.
And what was the first thing that you wrote that you looked at and thought, I'm going to publish this one?
Well, it was a poem after I'd read some of the D.H. Lawrence poems. So I was about 16 and I wrote a poem about a moth coming into my bedroom and me swatting the moth. And I thought, yeah, so that was published in the school magazine. And that was very, very important for me, the idea that you could write a poem and then it would get published, and people who flicked through the magazine for sports results and things like that would maybe read my poem about me swatting a moth.
What would you say to people who think poetry is a bit maybe dry, archaic, boring, in a world where it's so much stuff's competing for our attention now? What makes poetry stand up as an art form, if you will?
Well, I think many people, young people for example, are actually taking in poetry, even if they're not calling it that. They might be calling it rap and grime, let's say. You know, there are wonderful people like Loyal Kana and plenty of others, Stormzy and so on. And these people are writing poetry. It just so happens to have a kind of music, there's music with it, I was going to say, and they have a kind of chanty way of doing it. I'm not really giving it proper credit, but it's poetry. And I'm going to claim that for the world of poetry. So I'll just say, well, there's nothing dry about that. Hundreds of thousands, millions of people go and see, entertainers, performers like Laurel Kana and so on. And basically what they're writing is exactly the same principles of poetry. There's rhythm, there's some rhyme, they're reflecting on their lives, they're thinking about what their parents were like, they're thinking about the problems around them, racism, sexism, that sort of thing. And all this is in their songs. They might call them songs or sounds or beats, but I want to call them poems. So there's nothing dry about this. This is absolutely of the moment. Millions of young people loving it, and even old fogies like me when our teenage or older kids say, "Hey Dad, listen to this."
I'm really glad you said that. I used to do a lot of school assemblies on mainly anti-Louis, and there's this really great poem by Shane Chan with a really powerful music video I play. And I just ask the kids, what is this? Is this poetry? Is this rap? Is this just a man ramping into the wind? But also, as you said, where are the lines of demarcation between the three? And I tend to find that they're more blurred than people think they are.
Exactly. We don't have to just say, look, here's poem, here's rap, here's grime, here's a song. We don't have to bother about that. These are just names that people are giving stuff after the fact. If you take the great epic like the Odyssey or Beowulf, these were chanted, dramatic poems. They're shamans stood up amongst people, and performed these things. Well, whether they're poems, whether they're plays, whether they're storytelling, let's not get hung up about it.
And there'll be loads of young people here today who are coming to your book signing who've grown up with your work. To many, you're an idol, you're a folk, or you're in the geek world, we say you're a bardic inspiration in the D&D world. What advice would you give to young people looking to break into whether it's the poetry scene, the rap scene, the grime scene, anyone that wants to be a wordsmith and just play with the art form?
Find your way to poems, performances, spoken word, rap, grime, whatever, that takes your fancy. Find your way to it, and then say, I could have a go at doing that. All right? Maybe you'll only write 2 words, or 2 lines, or 3 lines, or maybe you just beat out something on your tabletop somewhere, and just say a little bit. And that will just take you into that way of thinking that you can craft words and language and make it work. I didn't know anything about rap right way back in the beginning when it was hip hop. And some boys from next door came to me and said, "Will you write us some hip hop rap?" And I had no idea what it was or anything. And I said, "Well, look, you play it to me and I'll see if I can have a go." And they played me some stuff. I think it was way back then, Run DMC or something like that. And I thought, and I sort of heard it, and then I thought, I'll see if I can make up some words that fit it. And I've always done that, and it can be very different. At that time, I came up with, "You may think I'm happy, you may think I'm sad, you may think I'm crazy, you may think I'm mad, hang on to your seats, listen right here, gonna tell you something that'll burn your ear." Well, that's all very hip-hop and old school. Well, that's how I did it. But other times, like I said to D.H. Lawrence, he just says, "I went down to the water trough." That's it. "I went down to the water trough." He just opens it with a little, very simple way of talking. He kind of talks onto the page. That's another way of writing. Or haiku, there's another way, or limericks. If you find a form and then you think, "I'll have a go at that," and then see what happens.
And what is next, Sir Michael Rosen? Are you gunning for the knighthood?
No, I don't really agree with those things. What am I doing next? Well, I've got books to write. I've got books coming out. I've got 3 books coming out the next few weeks. Got a book called The Big Dreaming, which is like a sort of a picture book about a little bear that worries that he's going to run out of dreams when he hibernates. So that's called The Big Dreaming. Then I got a sort of jokey take on Little Red Riding Hood called Not So Little Red Riding Hood. And then I've got a sort of Odyssey book that is told by a dog. called Gaston le Dog. So it's a one that takes place in France. The Incredible Adventures of Gaston le Dog. And he wants to get to the seaside, and he has quite a lot of obstacles in his way, and lots of friends who help him.
I would love to just live inside your head for an hour and just hang out and see what goes on. Fascinated by how the creative mind works. You can go back and read Roald Dahl stuff, like The Enormous Crocodile, and I'm like, part of me's like, bro, what happened to you? But there's also a little bit, and it's like, this is genius.
Yes. Well, I believe that everybody is creative. Everybody can be creative in different ways. You can be creative when you cook, or garden, or doodle on a page. I happen to be mostly creative, or trying to be creative with words, but you can be creative in any area, and you want to nourish it, nurture it, feed your creativity, find times to do it. If you like words, then play with them on a page, listen out for things, read things, imitate things, and it'll just flood.
Signing off to Rosie, we always give people a chance to plug themselves, plug their wares and what have you. So if people want to find you or know more about you, where can they do so?
Best place to go is my website, which is www.michaelrosen.co.uk.
Well, Michael Rosen, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Go and enjoy the rest of the show, my friend.
Thank you.
Well, gentlemen, it has been fun. It's been really good to see you again. I have missed you. And in all seriousness, Chris Lee Smith, very much a real guy, very much isn't there. He's going through some stuff right now, so he's had to kind of back out for a little bit and take care of himself, which is completely fine. And if you're watching this and you're also going through it and you're struggling, reach out, talk to people. There's always help out there. We always say at the end, don't be grumpy alone. Absolutely call the Samaritans, do what you have to. But yeah, Chris, we love you, we miss you. We choose you out a little bit, but it's all in love, my friend. But you do your thing, and we hope that you're back with us sooner rather than later. Duncan Casman, if people want to find out more about you and follow you on social media, how can they, where can they, what is the happy haps with your social media?
Basically, just PDA Dad UK anywhere on pretty much any social media platform you'll find me.
And Martin Dugan, same question, but to you.
Yes, so on Instagram it's Martin Dugan11, and on Twitter, or X, known as X now, it is Marty Dugan 2012.
And you can find me on Twitter, I refuse to call it that other thing, at Adam_Pearson, and I am Adam_Pearson_TV on the Instagram. Come and find us, come say hey, come and engage. We love it when you guys do. Don't forget to click that like, comment, subscribe. It really helps us out with the algorithm and pushes our message of love, positivity, and mouse murder out to a wider audience. I have been Adam Pearson, he has been Duncan Casman, and he has been Marty Dugan. Take care. We love you all. Until the next time we see you, don't be grumpy alone.